Hiya! This week it is all about direct sowing. So that basically means when you sow, instead of sowing in pots, you sow the seeds straight into the ground, or like I'm going to, because it's easier to show you, into a container. Now obviously in here I've got compost, so it's relatively well broken up, but if you are sowing straight into the ground you will need to kind of break the soil up, especially if it's in big clods, to make sure that the little seedlings have got a chance. So you can use a rake to do that, or if you've only got a trowel or a spade, just or maybe a hand fork, just kind of break all the big clods up so you've got like a nice fine crumb, I guess, almost like if you were making you know, like when you make pastry. If you make pastry, I don't, but you know, when you mix the flour and the butter together and it's kind of like nice fine, that's what you're kind of aiming for. So yeah, so it's quite simple. I'm going to sow spring onions in here. I'm quite late in doing this, so it's the start of May. You can sow spring onions outside straight into the ground from the end, or from early March really. I just haven't got around to it until now. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sowing one strip in here now, and then I'm going to sow another strip in 3 weeks time, and then hopefully by then these will be ready to harvest. I can pull them out and sow another strip 3 weeks after that one, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to kind of rotate. I might have to top up the compost a bit if I'm going to do that, but that just means that you get like a steady succession of spring onions rather than having them all ready at once, which is really frustrating because you just never manage to eat them. Some other things that you can direct sow are beetroot. I've direct sowed some turnips and some carrots as well. I've actually sowed both of those in kind of like a raised bed, but I've sowed them straight into the soil rather than putting them in pots. So yeah, this one's a lot more simple, and I suppose some benefits of direct sowing is that you have to, they're probably less labour intensive than some of the pots, some of the seeds sown in pots, because you know, especially if they're outdoors as well, they are, you know, they'll get rained on if it rains. If it doesn't, then you've got to water them, but other than that they're pretty self-sufficient. You may have to thin, they call it thinning. So this is when, if you sow a line here of seeds and then they're really close together, depending on the vegetable that you're growing, you might have to pull a couple, like, you know, basically pull a couple out and sort of chuck them. This just means that it will allow the ones that are left to grow bigger and give you better veg basically, but it should say on the back of your seed packet, it will call it like a thinning distance. So it will say like thin to 5 centimetres apart, for example. So just make sure you have a look at that, and then once your seedlings have popped up, you can just thin and pick the ones out that are too close together basically. So anyway, without further ado, I'm just going to use the end of my pen here, but you can use your finger, you can use a trowel, whatever you want. And I'm just going to make a little line. I hope you can see that there in the soil. It's quite deep actually. And then I'm just going to take my pack of seeds, give them a little shake. Ooh, it's quite an interesting sound. So I really try, when I'm sowing seeds, I try and really focus on everything that I'm doing. So you know, when you're breaking up the soil, notice how it feels between your fingers if you use your fingers. When I'm just about to sow my seeds, I always give them a bit of a listen and try and guess what they might look like. So from that, I'm thinking, oh, they sound like they might be quite round seeds, which is interesting. Quite small as well. And then when you get to open your packet, you just tip a few out onto your hand and just have a really good look at them and see what they look like. Oh, these are interesting. So these look quite like almost like, you know, nigella seeds that you, if you're a flower grower, that you might grow, or sometimes people use nigella seeds in cooking, don't they? So they look a little bit like that, which is interesting. And just kind of really notice the shapes. Are they all the same size? Are they all the same colour? Are they all the same shape? These ones have actually got quite jaggedy edges and all kind of a bit individual, which is quite nice. And just really try and focus in on everything that you're doing, because that will just really help you to be present and also just be in the moment and find a bit of calm and relaxation as well. So I'm literally just gonna, oh, little bumblebee just flew past. Just gonna pick these up and I'm gonna sprinkle them into here. Now this is a bit of a, you know, you will always end up dropping probably more than you want to, but I quite like focusing on the feeling of the seeds between my fingers as I drop them. Oh look, dropped a couple there. But if you sow them thinly in the first place, you'll have to kind of sacrifice less little seedlings along the way when they pop up. So, and obviously you can always go back and re-sow if there's any gaps, if some of the seeds haven't worked out or got lost, then you can go and sow a few more later on down the line. So there we go. So I've literally just sown those there. Now for my plant label, oh, one thing I was going to say, obviously I've used this trough, and if you've got a garden you can use the borders, but if you don't and you want to grow some of these in your garden, these mushroom trays are really good. The only thing you will have to do is put some holes in the bottom. So if you just use a fork or like a skewer heated on the hob, so it's hot, and just poke them through the plastic, it will just melt and make little holes in the bottom. So it's a really quick and easy way to do it, and it's safer than using a knife. So there's a little hack if you don't have pots like this or ground to sow in. And then for my plant label, I'm using my, this is an old pot noodle tub. I've just snipped a bit of it out and I'm going to use that as my plant label because I am running out of plant labels, and I might as well use up the plastic. I don't really want to have to buy any more. So I'm just going to put I'm only growing one variety of spring onion, so I'm not going to bother labelling it. These ones are white Lisbon, so I'm just going to pop that in there, and then I'm just going to cover back over with the soil. There we go, and then I'm just going to give them a little water. And while you're watering, just really notice what you're doing. Listen to the sound of the water into the soil, if it makes a sound. Give them a nice drink of water so the soil really settles around the seed, and it will mean that the seed has then got all the water and the nutrients that it needs to grow into a nice strong plant. So I hope that's been useful. Do let me know what you're sowing, and any questions you can just send me a message. Come find me on Instagram. I'm at Adventures with Flowers. See you soon. Bye.